Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I have such a fun card to share with you guys. I love when the idea I've had mulling in the back of my head for the last couple-ish weeks turns out pretty much how I was thinking. So I am using the Mama Elephant Tiny Ninjas stamp set, which I had got, this came out last year I think, well over a year ago. And I am inking up the stamps I wanted to use with Hero Arts Intense Black ink, and I am stamping them onto some Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock here. And I used my mini MISTI for this because these images have a lot of like solid areas, so I wanted to double stamp everything to make sure it's stamped really well. And then this part I've sped up quite a bit because it's just very simple Copic coloring. I did a little bit of a different color combo for once on their skin. I usually have like my go-to combo, but decided to just try something different. So I have the colors here that I used on the screen and just doing my standard MO, which is going from darkest to lightest. Usually when you start with Copic Markers and, you know, if you take any of the Copic classes or anything like that, it is recommended to go lightest to darkest. That does give you a bit more control over how much, you know, darkness you add. But over the years, I've gotten lazy. So I go darkest to lightest because it just saves me having to go back and forth and blend. With images like this, it's not as big of a deal because it's very small areas you're coloring. You know, you're not really showing off that gorgeous blend you get with Copic markers. So I just wanted to add the color. Now for their little like ninja belts, I did in Halloween colors. I know, you know, the belts, the actual colors mean something, you know, for levels, but this is a Halloween card. I took a little bit of creative license. So I colored everything in, and then I'm fussy cutting these because I don't have the coordinating die set. I thought I did, and I actually don't. So I fussy cut these. It's not the end of the world, but I much prefer having the coordinating dies. It would have saved me so much time. But cut them all out, and then I'm going to set them aside, and I have some Simon Says Stamp Smoke Gray cardstock here, and the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Skulls and Cobwebs stamp set. So these are red rubber clingback stamps. I just left it right on its, like the sheet it comes on because I don't need to remove it for any reason. And so I have it face up on my desk and I'm inking it up with Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink. A lot of people have been asking me lately what my favorite white pigment ink is. It is this one. If you want really bright, crisp white, you're going to still need to heat emboss it with some white embossing powder. But this is a really good white pigment ink. So I inked it up. And then I'm pressing that smoke gray cardstock into it. This cardstock, it was cut down to, I think, 4 inches square and just shy of covering that whole piece. So I just inked at the edge and then kind of pressed it on. I pretty much got away with it because of just the style of the stamp with like the little cobwebs and everything. And then when I'm using pigment inks, I clean everything up with a baby wipe because I don't like to let it sit and dry in there. It just makes it harder to clean. So I just wipe that off before I set it aside. And then I'm using the Fawn Slide On Over Circle wafer dies. You could use 2 staggered circle dies for this. You don't specifically need this set, but I like convenience. And I got this set, and rather than hoarding it, I'm actually using it. So I die cut that circle from that gray cardstock after the pigment ink had dried. I sped that up with my heat tool off camera. And then I'm keeping all of the pieces kind of inside each other here because I need this step. I die cut some black cardstock with a smaller circle wafer die. And I actually die cut 2 pieces, which helped. That wasn't really my intention to use both. But I am using those as a guide because those are going to go on the back of my little spinner element. So I want to make sure I'm not applying this foam tape anywhere where these circles are going to go around because you don't want them to get in the way. So I basically discovered that I pretty much could only apply the foam tape around the perimeter. And this is Scotch foam tape that I had doubled up previously for a different project and didn't use and saved because this is expensive. And I had trimmed it down already. So that kind of made this card even come together faster. So I applied the foam tape all around the perimeter. And then I need to apply foam tape to the center as well because that center circle is going to be needed and popped up. So I was able to kind of apply that in a circle because I have the backing removed from it, so it's really flexible. This, you don't need to, you know, apply the foam adhesive in a circle. You could just do straight lines as long as they don't go, you know, close to where the black cardstock circles are going to be. But it was simple enough to do that. So I made sure to apply a generous amount to that, just the very center of that circle there. You have to leave the outside so you've got that track for everything to spin. And because I had little pieces left, I was able to reinforce just these corners because it's a larger piece. I wanted to, you know, add as much foam tape as I could to the areas that I was able to. And you don't need to back this with cardstock. I chose to use some black cardstock cut to about 1/8 of an inch bigger than this gray piece, just to give it a little bit of a black frame around the edge before I adhere it to my card front, but you could just adhere this to your card front. It's personal preference. Now, what really makes this the best spinner is these My Favorite Things spin and slide discs. I've mentioned these in many videos. I've never actually used them. Just because, I don't know, I don't do a whole lot of interactive cards, and yet they're so much fun. So these little discs, they're just flat on each side and they're circular, so they're perfect. So what I've done is I'm going to adhere that circle. This you don't need to do. You could toss this piece, you don't need to use it. But I wanted to kind of keep the continuity of the background with the cobwebs, and I didn't want that stark black circle showing. So I adhered that with some Nuvo adhesive and making sure to kind of line up all the little lines on the web. And then those black circles, I ended up actually adhering them together. This, at that point, you could add like a penny or a little metal washer or even a dime. I literally have no small change in my house, and I wasn't about to add like a loonie or, you know, like major big change. This one, because it's too big, and two, that's expensive. It's like starting to add up on the cost of the card. But if you had a penny or a little metal washer, that would give it weight and it would really make it spin. But I didn't have anything. So I just adhered those two black circles together, and then I added that little spin and slide disc to it with a mini glue dot, and then I added another mini glue dot to the top of that, and you need to have that in place before you adhere this center circle. And I fiddled with this, and same thing, I was just making sure I was lining up the lines of the web so that everything, again, has that continuity. So now I've got my slider piece, you know, sandwiched in here so it's not going to fall out. The little mini glue dot's already on it. You could use a liquid adhesive like multimedia matte. Would be perfect for this because it's really good and strong, but I found the mini glue dots work perfectly. And then I adhere my little ninja, and now he spins around, and I'm so proud of myself. This worked out so well. Other than the fact that once I was done this point, I remembered what I told myself at the beginning was don't adhere everything before you stamp the spiders. So I'm telling you guys, don't adhere everything before you stamp the spiders. I was very careful. I used this little spider from the Mama Elephant Bootastic set, and I just basically, I was inking it up with Versafine Onyx black ink and basically stamping it on the areas where I knew the foam tape was, so there wasn't any give in the cardstock, so that these would stamp perfectly, because I would have been really mad if I'd messed this up. So I was kind of kicking myself here, but thankfully it worked out. So I was able to stamp a few spiders and decided obviously not to add any sentiments to the front. I just wanted the little spinning ninja and the webs and everything to kind of like take precedence. Plus I'm going to add a little bit extra to the inside of this card. So I've got my heavyweight white cardstock that I had cut to 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. So it is a top folding 4 1/4 inch square card. And I am getting that back in my MISTI, and I'm using this Tulips Karate Master stamp. This stamp is what inspired this entire card, and actually one of my viewers picked up on this when I showed it in a haul video. They had left a comment saying like, oh, this would look great. This would work perfectly with the Mama Elephant Tiny Ninjas set. And I was like, that's exactly what I had planned. That was why I bought this stamp. When I saw the stamp, I thought of this Ninjas set, and I was like, this will make the perfect cute Halloween card using a lot of non-Halloween-ish supplies. So inked up that stamp, stamped it on the inside of the card using my MISTI, which I'm glad I did because I ended up having to stamp it twice because it was a brand new stamp. Sometimes they don't stamp perfectly until they've been conditioned. And then I've got my little ninjas that I had stamped and colored. And then I made sure to stamp a couple little spiders on the inside too, because it works cute. I've said this before. The stamp is like totally true. And two, I'm not a fan of spiders, but I like them for Halloween cards, especially cute little ones like this. But in real life, no. So I adhered those little ninjas with the same Nuvo adhesive, and then I just trimmed off the parts that were hanging over the edges of the card. So I've got the inside of my card, and now I can adhere the outside with more of this Nuvo adhesive, which gives me a few seconds of wiggle room to make sure this piece is, you know, centered and all that. And that finished off this card. So really, really fun. And like I said, if you had a penny or a dime or a little metal washer adhered behind that black cardstock circle, that would give it some weight, and this would really spin. but you can obviously make it work without it, and that's where those little MFT spin and slide discs really come in handy, because they're plastics, they're that really smooth edge, so the items are going to move anyway. So I highly recommend them. If you don't have some and you want to make spinner cards, I recommend them. So I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!